Okay, the first thing that you're going to want to know for the Chapter 8 test is domain and range. This was not on the quiz, so I want to make sure that you guys remember this. Domain are the x values, and for a parabola in this class, all of our parabolas have a domain of all real numbers. The way that we remembered that before was darn. D for domain, all real numbers, D-A-R-N, darn. For the range are y values. So first you want to start with your y, and then you look at your graph. This is a minimum, because that's the lowest point of the parabola. If it's a minimum, then everything in this parabola is above that point, so it's greater than, and it's always going to be equal to, because we have a closed circle right here, and then you pick the number where it is on the y. So this is -1, -2, -3, -4, -5. So y is greater than or equal to -5. Okay, the next thing you're going to have to know for the Chapter 8 test is if a parabola opens up or down. So we're wondering if it's going to open up or down. Remember, you're going to look at the a, which is in front of the x squared. If the a is positive, it's going to open up. If the a is negative, it's going to open down. But the y has to be isolated. So here the y is isolated, and a is positive. So this one is going to open up. In the next equation, the y needs to be isolated. So I'm going to move this -3x squared to the other side, and it's going to become a positive 3x squared. Now, since the a is positive, this is also going to open up. Okay, so the first thing I want to focus on here is vertex. In order to find the vertex, we have to get the x, the axis of symmetry, the x equals -b over 2a, and then we plug that in to find the y. So that's what I'm going to start with. My -b is -12 over 2 times a, which is 2 times 3. -12 divided by 6 is -2. So I'm going to plug -2 into this equation. Remember to use parentheses. And then I'm going to calculate what y equals. So when I plugged in the x and I calculated, I got y equals -3. So now that I have a vertex, I'm able to start graphing. So I'd go to -2 on the x, -3 on the y, and I can make my first point. The next thing you can do is you can graph the y-intercept. The y-intercept is the c value. So on the y-axis at 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, a little off the chart here, but it's fine. I'm going to put my y-intercept. I'm going to make sure this parabola opens up, and it does. This opens up. So my graph is going to look something like this, because it's going to mirror image around that vertex. So really, I'm going up 12 spaces and over 2. So if you kind of rise over run, I'm going up 12 over 2, and I can do the same thing on the other side, up 12 over 2. This is our big spot. I can't say what we called it, but the big spot that we're going to mirror image. And so now that we have 3 points, we can graph. If all else fails and you're just totally lost on what to do, you can always use an XY table and pick any x values like -2, -1, 0, 1, 2. You could plug all of these in, and you could get your values for the parabola and graph your parabola that way. So if you freeze up, you can always use an XY table. Okay, this is zero product property, so for these problems you just set each part equal to 0. And then solve. So if we add 5 to both sides, we get x equals 5. And for this one, we would subtract 3 first, and then we would divide by 2. And so we get x equals -3 over 2. We realized a shortcut on these. If you do the opposite sign here, and then put it over the denominator here, that's a shortcut. So here we would get the opposite sign of -5 is 5 over 1, which is just 5.